hour to, oh, there's a recording in progress. Yes, very good. We have a short hour to discuss. So I will start with a presentation of around 20 minutes, 25 minutes max. I will try to be tight. So that we set the stage a little bit, because I know some of the questions I can already see in the chat. It's a lot about motivation and passion, or why wasn't I successful? So I will try to point a few pieces of information related to these topics. And then after that, we will still have over 30 minutes, hopefully. And I should take my phone just to make sure I have a timer. We will have around 30 minutes to take any Q&As you want, maybe moderated by our colleagues from Studentshubgh, or just if you open your mic. I mean, I don't know. It's as Studentshubg's Ghana wants. Anyway, let's just jump in. I will be very, very open and frank and direct and honest, because I do believe this is the only way for me to be useful. This is not about presenting you the UN like a flyer, like a promotional flyer. Because if you are here today, you already know what the UN is about. And you already have, I believe, a wish to maybe one day join the UN or collaborate with us. So it is more about some very practical tips and advice, and also sometimes some wake-up call on what is it that it takes to become a UN staff member, that you may or may not be able to find on our websites or online, or etc. So a bit insider's tips, if you want, to the extent possible. Great. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Oh, can you grant me host or co-host access? Sorry, co-host.
You have access.
No, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, so let me quickly work on that.
Oh, I never remember now. Where would that be? Maybe if you click on the three little dots on my icon,
Sure,
maybe
sure.
there you have co-host or make co-host, or
Yeah. Okay.
yes. Thank you. It's working now.
Sure.
Good, good. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Right. Very, very good. So just to recap, because I can see we have more people who are joining as we're talking. This is the first presentation, which will be around 20 minutes, and then we will jump into the discussion for the second part of the hour. And please mute your mic for the time being, so that the connection remains fine, and then we will be able to interact. I think someone is. I'm going to. Maybe we can mute. Yeah, there we go. All right. First of all, and I know you're here already there, so I will not spend time, but there is a kind of a starting point when working or willing to join the UN. It's to believe that today's challenges this planet is facing, and some continents, even more so like Africa or Latin America, etc., are facing, cannot be addressed without a multilateral solution to these challenges. Because be it wars, terrorism, diseases, climate change, these challenges are not limited to one country. They are interconnected to a more global environment. And this is why I believe in the UN work in that sense. And also this is why when you apply for positions to the UN, and again now, as you can see, I'm going to the extent possible always to put the emphasis on you as an applicant. It is very important to make sure that you demonstrate that you believe that we can make the planet a better place if we work all together towards questions related to human rights, to peacekeeping, to promoting peace, to fighting poverty, to fight climate change, etc., etc. So that motivational aspect is very important. Now, in the UN system, you have three main pillars, if I can say. It's a very, very big summary of the setup, but you have the political and human rights pillar, very much so, you know, the General Assembly, the UN resolutions, etc., etc. And these are a very specific pillar, which actually employs a lot of civilians and activity and staff overall. But I work with the United Nations Development Program, so I don't work on that part of the UN family. There's also the peacekeeping missions, you know, the blue helmets, which are present, for example, in Congo DR, among many other places. These blue helmet missions actually do employ a lot of civilians as well. So there are also a lot of job opportunities there. But again, this is a bit specific and I don't work on these topics. So I will focus on the third pillar, which is the development pillar, because this is where UNDP is. However, most of the tips, if not all the tips and discussions we're going to have, do apply no matter where you're looking into these different pillars of the United Nations. And actually, some of these tips and advice do apply to any type of positions you would look for an international organization or for sorry, Aina, could you please mute your mic? I've been muting you a few times, but so Aina, I'm muting your mic, and if you don't mind not unmuting for the time being, thank you. So when it comes to applying for the UN, this is how the UN system looks like. It's actually a very complex setup in terms of the way we are structured. And unfortunately, from an applicant viewpoint, it is nearly as complex. There are many different agencies, and many of these agencies will have their own portal in terms of recruitment portal. So it means you may have, depending on your profile and what you're interested in, to create several online profiles to be able to apply for various positions. This is, I think, a shame. I wished we had one UN recruitment portal, and then as a candidate, you would have one profile, but that's not the way it is. And it's way beyond my power to change that. However, what you can already do, depending on where you are today in your professional career, if you're still students, if you're entry-level professionals, mid-level professionals, etc., you can already start looking into a mapping exercise. Doing your homework always pays off because, and that's a very important piece of information I'm going to share now, generic applications do not work. I think on average, probably 60% or 70% of the applications we receive for each and every position we advertise come from people who do not really meet the requirement of the position or who just applied half-heartedly. These applications do not work. It's a very competitive job market. You have to tailor as much as you can your applications, and you have to apply for positions where you tick the boxes. I will get back to that in a second. But that's an important element because, again, depending on your profile, your expertise, your interest, some of these agencies will be more relevant than others. For example, if you are into, I don't know, if you're interested into, I don't know, water and sanitation questions, well, typically UNICEF would be one of the key agencies to look at because they have a lot of water and sanitation health experts. UNDP does not work on water and sanitation. It's not part of our mandate in a way. We may be involved into it through joint programming, but usually we will not advertise for positions in that field. So, however, if it's an economist, UNDP hires a lot of economists, and so do a lot of other agencies because many agencies need economists. But again, depending on your profile, it would be more or less natural that you apply and look for positions in a specific agency. So do your homework, that pays off. I will not go into the SDGs because this is kind of the roadmap of the development agenda of the UN system. If you are not familiar with the SDGs, I would say your chances to be selected in a UNDP position would be quite slim, to be honest, because this is really the roadmap of our activities. Unless you are a very specialized person, for example, an IT or an accounting expert, in which case these programmatic topics are less important. But still, understanding the SDGs, knowing what it is about is critical. Depending on the agencies that operate, they will have a different focus and different SDG 30. In the case of UNDP, we focus a lot on number 1, no poverty, because we are, I'm going to talk about that for a split second, the leading agency in fighting poverty. But also we are one of the leading agencies on questions related to number 7, energy, and number 13, and to a certain extent 15 on environment. And we are the leading agency for number 16 on governance, or peace and justice, as they call it. So again, depending on your interest, you can also consider developing your profile and your CV and your expertise and your storytelling about that expertise against one or several of these SDGs. It is actually quite powerful to say, I am an SDG, I don't know, number 7, clean energy specialist. I studied environmental studies. I worked on questions related to how to ensure sustainable renewable energies in the local community, etc., etc. I'm just sharing examples. But you can use the SDGs or one of them as a storytelling around you as an expert. This is very powerful. Now, I have to say one word about UNDP because this is my agency, and also this is, I think, a very important work that we're doing. UNDP is one of the leading agencies in advising governments or working jointly with governments and local communities in finding solutions to try to tackle the multi-dimensional elements around poverty. Because we do believe that it is not possible to only tackle poverty through the pure economic angle. You need to take into account the natural resources management angle. You need to take into account the gender equality element. Also, everything which has to do with governance. If there's economic growth in one country, but it only benefits part of the population, and some other part of the population, maybe women, or an ethnic, or a region, or whatever other group is left behind or left aside, then it is not sustainable and it is not there. So this is what UNDP is trying to do, you know, in order to tackle long-term development in the most optimal manner. I'm not going to go into details about UNDP's work because we actually have a very, very nicely done annual report, which I encourage you to download. You just type UNDP annual report and you will get the link. And here, these are just pages. It's not too long a reading, actually, but it really gives you an idea of what UNDP is doing and how it's trying to do it. So there's the focus, of course, on poverty, another one on governance. We are behind many elections taking place on this planet. Resilience, to make sure that a country which has faced a catastrophe is equipped to avoid facing it again. It can be a man-made catastrophe, it can be a natural catastrophe. This is why we are present in Afghanistan or in Iraq or in Haiti, for example. Climate change, unfortunately, a key topic these days, and UNDP, as I was briefly saying, is one of the leading agencies there. Also moving from fossil energies to renewable energies. This is also something we are very much engaged for. And I mentioned gender equality, which is underpinning all our activities. We're not the only ones on that. All agencies more or less have a gender equality agenda because it's an obvious issue and topic that needs to be addressed. What does that mean for you? That means that depending on your programmatic profile, If you are an economist, for example, it would more be towards zero poverty signature or agenda, poverty reduction. If you're more into gender studies, it would be gender equality. If you're more into environmental studies or equivalent, it would be environment, etc. We also have a lot of positions which are support positions or operation positions. It can be in HR, like human resources. It can be in IT. It can be in procurement. We purchase a lot of goods all the time. It can be in, I don't know, pure project management, monitoring and evaluation, partnerships, you name it. And these are not always connected to a programmatic activity, but it's more an expertise that we would need from someone who studied, I don't know, to become an accountant, for example. This type of positions, we call them operations, if you want, in its broad term, and there are a lot of job opportunities there as well. So it's not because you have not studied some of these thematic areas I've just briefly mentioned that you cannot find positions with UNDP or across the UN system. Now, I've just used UNDP as an example, but all UN agencies will have its mandate, hence the type of experts it's looking for. And there, I would say, except maybe for, I don't know, cooking, I think we have needs at all levels. We even hire pilots, helicopter pilots or plane pilots for some of our peacekeeping operations or humanitarian operations, for example. So it's a very, very broad array of positions. When it comes to UNDP, we have around 20,000 plus staff members, and we have a very large presence. We work in 170 countries and territories, and really, really across the globe. So here you can see it's an overview. Again, this is an extract from the annual report, so I don't want to spend time there, but just to share that basically there is a job more or less everywhere, except in some developed countries. Our headquarters are in New York. Joining UNDP and joining the UN is not joining a regular job. It's joining a community of purpose, which shares values, common values. And beyond that very strong statement, it's also something I would like to encourage you when applying, and that's another tip of mine, to highlight in your motivation letter and also highlight in your CV to the extent possible that you believe in the UN values and that you want to contribute to them. This shows your motivation, your passion, your commitment, and this is something we look at. We also look at people who can think outside the box. What we call that the next gen thinking. I don't know, it's maybe a bit of a buzzword, but basically that means we look at people who are able to, how do you call it, find solutions or explore solutions that could tackle today's problems and also try to foresee tomorrow's problem. It's a bit complex, I must say, but basically what does that mean for you as an applicant? Try to the extent possible to emphasize how you have contributed to changing things. No matter what your expertise is about, make sure that you emphasize your ability to think outside the box, to, how can I call it beyond that? Yeah, to brainstorm and explore solutions to address old problems. This is very powerful again when applying. And lastly, something I wanted to emphasize is the personal growth. Joining the UN oftentimes means leaving your own country, leaving your loved ones and your family, and going and traveling to different places, sometimes different continents. And that also means being exposed to a lot of new cultural situations and exposure. And also it will have an impact on your family or on your private life for sure, because again, you will be traveling and traveling around, etc., etc. So it's not a regular job either there. And that's perfectly fine. Personally, I think that's what the most exciting part is the fact that you are regularly exposed to new situations. But it also means that you have to think about it when applying. You would be surprised by the number of candidates who once they reach the final stage of the application process, actually decline the offer of appointment that we would make to them for personal reasons. And oftentimes it's because they realize it's too far from home, or so whatever you're applying for, make sure that if you are being offered the job, you would take it. This is very important. It sounds obvious, but again, we have a lot of people who actually do not follow that tip. Now, one more word, a couple of more words on the requirements. I mentioned the motivation, I mentioned the drive, but before that, you also need to be able to tick the boxes of the requirements of the job. And I have already mentioned it at the beginning of the session, but I want to stress it again. When we advertise positions, we will ask for some requirements. It looks a bit like this. We have some competencies, we have some technical knowledge, we have some language skills, we have some number of years of experience, etc. If you do not tick the must-have requirements, for example, if you apply for a position which needs French and at least 5 years of professional experience and a master's degree, and you don't have that, or one of that, you will not be considered. So it is very important to carefully read the job description, and to carefully check the requirements. I'm talking of the must-have requirements. We also have a list of desirable requirements, the nice to have. These ones, it's okay. It's perfectly fine not to have them. It's kind of a wish list from our side of an ideal candidate, but it could be very, very rare to have someone ticking all the boxes. So that part, don't worry. If it says French is desirable and you don't have French, that's okay. You can apply. As long as you meet the must-have requirements, these ones need to be met. So I would really like to insist on that. When it comes to UNDP, typically French is a good idea, Arabic as well. Spanish can be good as well, less so than French, but and also typically we would ask for people with field experience, that is people who have already demonstrated they worked in a developing country context. Now, I don't want to judge any of you here, but I guess some of you come from or live in developing countries. You may have studied elsewhere, or maybe now you live elsewhere, or I don't know, many different profiles. But some of you are in developing countries, which is good because this is the type of profiles we're looking for. There are many different types. I would still stay, I can see it's been 20 minutes now, so I'm going to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but just to emphasize also that there are many, many different ways to get into the UNDP and the UN. Many different contracts, many different programs. For example, I don't know if you're aware of it, but UNDP has something called the African Young Women Leader Program. It's only open to women from Africa, obviously, and it's open to women, to young talent, in the sense that they must have less than 1 year of experience after graduation from the university. It's kind of a fellowship program. It's actually a very successful one, and they may launch a new cohort in the coming months. I don't know when exactly. You'll have to stay tuned on our social media presence. I will show you in a second where that is. But just to say, that's a very good program for young women from Africa. We also have, I will go back to the internships just in case, but a graduate program. And yesterday, we just launched it. The graduate program is the second cohort, which has been launched. The call for applications was launched yesterday. So if you type UNDP graduate program, you will see what it is about. Again, it is for people with less than 1 year of experience. So it is not a, it is really an entry level program in that sense. But some of you may be eligible. There are many other programs around, not only in the UNDP. In all organizations, you will have some specific program which may target a specific group, maybe people with disabilities, women, people from a certain region, for example, or a certain nationality, or maybe a certain expertise. UNDP, we have a roster of experts in peace and security. It's for people who have some years of experience, but maybe some of you have a lot of years of experience. I don't know. So just to say, there are many, many different ways to get into the UN beyond applying for regular positions. So again, homework is critical. There's also the United Nations Volunteers. Unlike its name, it's a volunteering program, but it is paid. And for several years, for some of these schemes, that's an excellent way to get into the UN system. And there are something called national UNVs, National United Nations Volunteers, which are basically positions in your own country. And that's a great way to start a UN career, even though it says volunteers, because you gain some very practical experience. For UNDP, we have a job portal. It's jobs.undp.org. I think it will be revamped in the coming months. I hope it will, because it's not the most user-friendly one, but that's the way it is right now. And as I said at the beginning of the session, many agencies will have their own portals as well. So you may want to do some homework there as well. When it comes to UNDP, and I would encourage you to take a snapshot of this slide here, we have a strong and solid social media presence, especially on LinkedIn. It's UNDP Careers. So if you type in UNDP Careers, you will find us. And I would encourage you to follow us, because we will post, for example, the graduate program was posted there, of course, but overall, we will post a lot of information about how to join the UN or some inspirational stories, etc. All right, I'm going to stop here to leave room for questions, but I would like to give one last part of information. When I talked about the requirements, it can be a bit daunting, because you will see many of our vacancy announcements, be it regular positions, special programs, consultancies, etc., will ask for a lot of requirements. One way to address that, and that's not only for UNDP and the UN, it's overall, it's a career tip that I would like to impart on you. It's to look at positions you would not apply for today, positions which are way beyond your level, maybe 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead of you. No matter where you are today, look for positions which are more seasoned, more senior than what you are. And then you look at the requirements for the said positions. And that allows you to see what is it you're missing. And then you can build your CV backwards by saying, okay, I can see they keep on saying monitoring and evaluation is a key asset for this type of positions. I don't have monitoring and evaluation in my toolbox yet. Maybe I should take a certificate, an online certificate on M&E. Maybe my next job should be a job which has such an element, so that I can demonstrate I know about it, etc. Oh, I can see Arabic would be great for me to be able to work on whatever topic in that region. I don't have Arabic. Maybe I should start learning it, because it will take years before I have a correct level in Arabic. So planning ahead is very powerful, so that the day you apply, you are ready. A lot of people apply when they need a job. It's better to look at jobs while you don't need it, and then you plan what is it you would need to gain to be able to land on that job a few years later. All right, I'm going to stop here because it's already 4:30, at least my time. So I want to give room for questions and answers. I can see, sorry, I forgot, I can see a direct message to me. I forgot to mention internships. Sorry, one more word on internships. Internships policies will vary from agency to agency. So there are some variations, and I cannot talk on behalf of all agencies, because again, they're slightly different one from another. For UNDP, internship opportunities are totally decentralized. Basically, what does that mean? That means that you will have to look for an internship offer on the job site, and they will come and go. Each time a unit has a need for an intern, they will advertise for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it will disappear, and then another unit will post, etc. So it's not a roster, it's a direct application for a specific position. So if you're interested in a specific internship in a country or on a topic, you have to look regularly on the job site to identify whether or not there is such an internship opportunity. unsolicited applications will not work. And then for internship, you need to be either studying last year of bachelor degree, anytime in a master's degree, or have graduated within 1 year from the university. So if, for example, you graduated 2 years ago, you will not be eligible for an internship. All right, I stop here. Over to my colleagues from Studentshubgh to moderate or to tell me how you want to take it from there with the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the insight. I've personally taken a lot. And then we'll have to open the floor for the questions. There were some few questions in the chat room. So let me quickly, okay. So this is from Flavie. I am a law student in Brazil with environmental research background, but no field experience. How do I make my application stand out for UN internships?
I'm very sorry, it dropped. I heard the last part for to make stand out. Can you repeat the first part? It dropped out. Sorry.
Okay. So a law student in Brazil with environmental research, but no field experience. So he's asking how he can make his application stand out for UN internships.
Is it an internship? That's what you said?
Yes, please.
Okay. For internship, thank you. For internships, it's okay. You don't need to have field experience. We do not expect any experience for interns because it's basically internship is the way to gain that first experience. So my advice when it comes to standing out, and that's for internships, but anything else, is make sure that you do your homework about the position you're applying for. If you're applying for a specific unit in a specific country, try to find out, to the extent possible, what is it that office does in that country? What programs are they engaged in? What partners do they have, etc. Because like that, you can mention it in your cover letter. You can say, I'm interested in working in your office because I found that you worked on this, this, and that, and this is something I'm interested in because I think it's an important topic. And then you say why it's an important topic. I'm not saying pages and pages, but a couple of initial paragraphs where you're showing that you are interested in that position. And that's actually a tip I forgot to mention at the beginning, and I would like to mention it again and again. And sorry for being direct, but that's the way it is. We do not recruit you. We recruit you for a post. So it's the job first and you after. I know it may sound very blunt, but a lot of applicants try to present themselves holistically, like I'm the best in everything. We don't care. What we care for is whether you match the positions and the needs for the position you apply for. So to the extent possible, identify the keywords of the internship terms of reference or whatever job description you're applying for and relate to these keywords. If the position has some, I don't know, analytical work, research, monitoring, benchmarking, whatever that is, that's what you should put your application and your CV for. If it's about coordination work, make sure that you put the emphasis on your interest in coordination. And if you have experience, on your experience in coordination. So tailor CV and cover letter to the application to the extent possible, and make sure that the recruiter sees that you want that job, not a job, but that job. It's very powerful. Thank you. Shall we take another question?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. So I have worked with UN Volunteer as senior membership officer last year, but since then I don't get shortlisted till today, even with similar positions. So I think he's trying to say he has been in the system already, but he hasn't been shortlisted anytime he applies for similar positions. That's if I got him correctly.
Yes, I think I can see some of the questions and comments coming up in the chat, and it is true. It is a very competitive exercise. I mean, for one position we advertise, we get between, I don't know, if the position sorry, if the position is in a hardship duty station.
This one is blue. I need to plug it. I'm in a mission.
Hello.
I don't know if someone is talking on the line.
Yes. Kindly unmute yourself. Sorry, kindly mute yourself.
So just to say, depending on the type of positions, we receive between, if it's a technical, very technical position, or in a very difficult country, maybe 20 applications, up to several hundred applications. So it's going to be a very, very tough screening process. So when you apply, make sure, again, that you tailor your application and your CV as close as possible to the job description, and double check the requirements of the job. I mean, I don't know of your specific situations, but I can tell you again that a majority of applicants would never make it in the first cut. And even if you make it, then we have to reduce and reduce and reduce till we end up with maybe 3-4 candidates whom we will interview for one post. So it's very competitive. But if you don't apply, you don't get the job. My advice is apply less, but apply tactically for positions which you have the best chances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are some people who have raised their hands to ask questions, so they'll quickly unmute themselves and then.
Great.
Okay, so Mr. Eric Leakey. Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Oh, hello.
Okay, can we have your question, please?
Okay, I wanted to ask regarding with positions, with organizations like the UNDP. In my country, you find that there's so much political influence, especially when it comes to internship opportunities and job opportunities. So how do you, as a big international organization, make sure that there's no political influence whatsoever regarding the allocation of opportunities?
I mean, it's a very good question. I can already share. I mean, UNDP is supposed to be how can I say? We're supposed to live up by the values we're promoting. So normally, I mean, not normally, UNDP is an apolitical and not oriented organization in that sense. Now, in each and every local context, there may be some situations which I'm not aware of course, but our policy are our recruitment policy is very clear that equal chances should be given to all, no matter of your ethnicity, your region of origin, etc., etc. So this is what I can tell you. We have our senior management in each and every office would come from other countries precisely to avoid some collusion with local authorities on such questions. And to the extent possible, we live up to these values. But I cannot go beyond this. I mean, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Jean. So we have Dudu. Dudu, kindly unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. Hello, Dudu.
Okay. Hello, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess can you hear me?
Yes.
Very well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. So, just like many other people, I've been applying countless times, And I was wondering, maybe is it because of my degree, because I did agribusiness and economics. And I just graduated in 2021, December 2021 from America, but I'm originally from Botswana. And so I wanted to know how I can go about it. I'm still in America. I'm trying to look for a placement in America or in Europe if it's possible. Um, yeah, so how can I take the degree that I have and match it towards, um, some of the positions that the UNDP has?
Okay.
Or even the World Food Program, if you have any sort of information from that.
Thank you, Dudu. I mean, it would be World Food Program and UNDP, we use more or less the same approach when it comes to recruitment and requirements. So the advice from one agency would be the same. However, than the other. However, in terms of the profiles we're looking for, these can be quite different because WFP in this case is a humanitarian agency. You know, it's about providing relief where the needs are most. While UNDP is not a humanitarian and assistant agency, we are a long-term development agency. So in terms of where we operate, it would be a bit different. And also the types of profiles. For example, WFP, they're very much into supply chain management experts because they have to move, I don't know how much food from one place to the other. UNDP, we don't do that. So there are variations there. I should emphasize the fact that except for some of the programs I mentioned, most positions would require usually 2 years of professional experience after graduation. So in other words, my best advice to you, if you want one day to join the UN, is one, to do again your homework and trying to identify which programs may be open to you based on your, personal setup, personal case. And then two, look for positions outside the UN, maybe in a non-governmental organization, for example, but which would grant you the experience, give you the chance to gain the experience, typically field experience, because if you live in the US, you may be originally from Uganda, you said? Sorry.
No, Botswana.
Botswana, sorry. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You may,
Yeah.
but now you're in the States, so you need to basically gain that experience also in the field, and that's always very valuable. So typically, NGOs, consulting firms on non-profit projects, a lot of consulting companies these days compete for development banks projects, for example. That's a great way to gain some experience. It can be a permanent mission or a delegation of in your case, the US into a country or an embassy. Anything that allows you to gain that field experience when it comes to UNDP will be very valuable later on. So in other words, unless it's a very specific program which is targeting graduates, which do happen, usually most candidates would come with some years of experience from elsewhere. So let's make sure that that experience you gain is as valuable as possible and as validating as possible. Thank you.
Can I ask
All
a
right,
question?
thank you. And then just one more question. Do you guys have, do you specifically have a sample of a resume and a cover letter that you can share with this platform?
No, I don't have one. However, you can look up, when it comes to CVs, we use what we call result-based CVs. So if, result-based CVs. So if you type this up on the internet, you will get some examples of that. Basically, it's CVs where you give examples and you quantify them. You don't say, I was assistant to a member of the parliament. You say that, but then you say, and in that regard, I had to organize 10 events. I had to mobilize funds for $10 million or whatever, you quantify things. That's very powerful. When it comes to motivational letters, we don't have one format, but personally, my advice is 1 page max. If you cannot present yourself in 1 page at your age, then it means it's too long-winded somehow. So very to the point. Why is that the position is important? Why is that you want to work in that field? And what is it you're bringing to the position? A, B, C. These are the three main expertise you're looking for. And I meet them, this, and that. Very to the point and connected to the position.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Hill. Don't
Hello.
forget me.
Hello.
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 I think,
Okay, so
yeah,
someone is
Hello.
let's have student hubs deciding. Thank you.
Hello.
hello. Yes.
Hello. I'm Ismatullah from Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yes,
Kindly
please.
go ahead with your question.
I have a question.
Okay. Please go ahead.
I have applied multiple times as an IT associate in Afghanistan UNDP organizations. I have all requirements of the jobs that are announced, but I am not shortlisted. Could you please say what are the other steps that I should do? Because I completed P11 forms, also I check my CV and cover letters, double check, as you said. I applied multiple times, but even now I am not shortlisted. I have all requirements of the jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I can only repeat what I have said before. I don't know your specific case, nor how do they recruit in Afghanistan. I mean, we have a lot of positions there, so, but I don't know how many other applicants come here. But if you're ticking all the boxes of the job requirements, then make sure again that you present the CV I mean, what I said before, you turn your CV around and you make sure that you talk about the job and how you fit it. Now, I cannot talk about your personal case. I don't know it, and I would not have the possibility to look into it, of course, for reasons of time. But if you have the requirements, you are eligible. And if you are eligible, go for it and continue applying. But I cannot answer so granularly this question, unfortunately. I don't know the context.
Oh,
Just
can I have your emails?
No, I
Please.
would not look into specific cases. I'm very sorry, because for the sake of time, we have thousands of applicants, and I simply do not have the capacity to look into specific cases. However, you can also try to find, maybe through your network, to find someone who works with the UN and who could maybe help you in looking at your CV and cover letter, and why is that it's not successful. Maybe try to find someone who is familiar with the local context. That could be an option.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
question.
So,
Just a
Esmatullah,
Is
you are encouraged to do more research and then get yourself equipped. Thank you for that. So we have Gildas. Gildas, kindly go ahead with your question. Hello, Gildas.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Kindly speak up a bit, Mr. Gildas.
Yeah. I wish to ask for the UNDP graduate program. Is it designed for recent graduates, or they count all combined years of experience?
This is correct. You would have to have less than 1 year of experience.
It doesn't matter if your prior experience, for instance, someone can start working after a bachelor degree, and later, after 1 year or 2 years, he joins a master degree, and within the interval of 1 year, can he be eligible for this kind of opportunity?
I mean, this would be, I think this would be careful. This would be, I mean, now you're asking a little bit of a specific question. I'm not super, let me see, I'm looking at the page as we speak.
Okay.
If you have a master's degree, what do they say?
Hello, Gildas.
Oh, it's actually 2 years. If you have a master's degree, no more than 2 years of work experience. If it's a bachelor degree, no more than 3 years.
Okay.
Between 2 and 3 years. So it's very, very specific. Sorry, I thought it was 1 year. Apologies for that. I realized it's actually 2 years. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
So Gildas.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope your question has been answered. Okay, so we have Isaac. Isaac, kindly go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to know, with respect to the UNDP, if they provide remote job opportunities available for other nationals across the country. And then secondly, are there the jobs that being provided also visa sponsored to either different or various diversified countries? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This is a very valid question, and I didn't cover it. So thanks for that. We have many different types of positions in the UN and in UNDP. Some of the positions are local, what we call local. It can be support staff or national officers, which are executive positions, but locally recruited. Some positions are international in the sense that we will hire someone from one place to go to another. And some positions are home-based in the sense that wherever you are on this planet, you would be hired from there and you would work from remote.
Okay.
So depending on these scenarios, it would be different requirements nationality-wise. Typically, not always the case, because it's a country, it's each government of this planet which decides. But typically, if it's a local position, you normally need to have the nationality of the country in question, or at least a work permit in the country. It's not always the case. Some countries allow external people to come. This is not the UN, by the way. This is the government, the host country, if you want. If it's an international position, anyone can apply. And we actually do encourage people from another region to apply for such a position, because that's a very valid way to, exchange ideas and experience. If it's a remote position, it doesn't matter where you are. As long as you meet the requirement, you can be considered, because there's no travel involved.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jean. So there are people asking for the recording. So all participants would receive the recording via email after the session. Kindly note. Okay, so we have Sharif. Sharif, kindly go ahead with your question.
Yeah, good day, well done. I'm Additional Sharif from Nigeria. So my question is actually, if one wants to volunteer for UNDP in Nigeria, is there a link to that? How do one go about it? And also, is there an internship for someone studying child development and family studies? So what are the
child development
and family studies? So is there an internship for them?
Well, not for UNDP, because it's not part of our mandate.
Okay.
So we are back to what I was saying. It's important to try to identify which agencies would work on a specific topic. UNDP does not work with children, if I can summarize it. Of course, our work impacts children, but it's not part of the mandate. That would be UNICEF.
Okay.
So when it comes to volunteering, I don't know what UNDP Nigeria does. Each country office would have specific activities, but there is a lot with youth empowerment and youth engagement. So usually, more often than not, a UNDP country office would engage with the civil society on various activities. But, and that's a big but, we are not an NGO. We do not employ volunteers for our activities. That's not our role. So we do engage with the civil society and with people to ask for their opinion, or sometimes have them in forums or whatnot. But in terms of working, I doubt there are some voluntary positions directly in a country office like in Nigeria, because we employ professionals. We don't use volunteers, except for United Nations volunteers, which is a contract, if you want. But volunteering, like I want to help in the evening or something, we don't do that.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay. So Halima, you can go ahead with your question, please. Halima.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation and your time. So I have 3 questions. The first one is part-time job.
Short ones.
Sorry?
Short questions then, to leave the room for
Yeah, it's very short. The
good.
first one, is it like part-time job considered as like, if it's part-time job, but maybe for many years, and at the end it may be 1.5 years, is it still considered as experience or not? And the second, right now I'm in Malaysia. I just finished my degree, but maybe I would like to work here. I want to know if the position will prefer locals, even for the international positions, or it's okay if even like you're from, like I'm from Senegal, for instance. So is it possible for me to be hired? And the last one, how long is approximately the application process?
These are excellent questions. Thank you for that. So I will be very happy to answer them, because this is not only about you, it's for many cases. First of all, for the part-time part, and I should have mentioned it, yes, it does count. So if you worked, let's say 4 years, 50%, that's 2 years. It's purely mathematical. If you worked only 1 day a week for 10 years, then it's whatever, I don't know. But that's the way it counts. You say how much time it was, and we do the math. So definitely. When it comes to positions, again, it's country specific. As it happens, I know about Malaysia, but it would not be the case everywhere. Malaysia, you would not be able to apply for a local position. In Malaysia, for local positions, you need to be Malaysian. But you would be allowed to apply for an international position. International positions means basically we hire you as an expatriate. It may be that you are already in the country, but you're not from that country. So typically, we would not put an international in their own country. We would put an international elsewhere, while local positions typically would be open to only the nationals of the country, with exceptions from one country to another. And lastly, your third question.
The application process.
Yes, application process, thank you. Oh, my video dropped. I don't know why. No,
we can see.
Okay, I can't see me, but that's okay. The application process, typically, it depends from position to position, and sometimes things may be more complex, but typically it's around 80 days from the moment a position is closed, a vacancy announcement is closed, and the moment you can expect an answer. So 80 days, it's around 3 months, let's say. So typically it would take 3 months for us to get back to someone. And then it would take, for the recruitment itself, it can also take 2 months sometimes to do all the paperwork. So typically a horizon of 6 months between the moment you applied and the moment you are in the job, I would say.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I can take one more question and then we will have to wrap up despite this very engaging conversation. Thank you.
Okay. So one more question and then we'll end the session. Time is fast spent. So Benjamin, you can quickly. Okay. Adribab Mohammed, can you go ahead with your question? Let's be fast about it, please. Okay. Rahman.
Thank you for this opportunity. I would like to know that it is only your website of UNDP to find out international positions, or do you post your international positions to other job forum like LinkedIn or somewhere else? And also another short question, that is, do you use artificial intelligence to sort out the CVs or not? Thank you very much from Bangladesh.
Yes, greetings to Bangladesh and you, Saiful. Good questions, indeed. The first one, I mean, all our positions would be on the job site, yes, but we do pick some of these positions and advertise them on the social media like LinkedIn, but it will not be all of them, far from that. There are some external platforms from private service providers which allow you to create some job searches I don't want to name any of them because I don't want to be promoting them. It's not the UN, but it is possible to create profiles in these private platforms, and then you enter some filters like keywords of positions you're interested in or countries, etc. And then you get a digest in your inbox every week or every day, whatever you want. That's actually quite convenient because like that, you don't need to go through the 50 different job sites. That can be an option. And then the second question, at this stage, we don't use artificial intelligence for external positions, but we have started using it to a certain extent internally. When we do fast placements, when we take a colleague and we send that colleague very fast because there's an emergency, I know my colleagues have started using this feature, but it is not used for regular positions or external positions. This would be manually made by a human being, if I can say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm afraid I will have to wrap up. I'm very sorry, but I cannot stay longer. I have another commitment.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you are encouraged to send additional questions via email. If you have questions unanswered, you can send it to us at studenthubgh@gmail.com, and then we'll quickly attend to you. Thank you, Jean, for the presentation.
Right.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the insights.
My pleasure. And thank you for inviting me, and thank you to all for being there and all these questions. I hope it was useful. And it's the first step in your UN career, I hope. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. You know, one thing I've taken from you is that you need a one-page motivational letter. Yes, and trust me, I have a 2-page. So I'll quickly go back and work on it. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you so much. All the very best to all. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you. So everyone will be sending the recording via your email addresses that you used to register. And thank you all for making time for today's session. I hope everyone has been able to pick up something. And if your questions were not answered, we sincerely apologize for the time constraints. Kindly send us your questions via studenthubgh@gmail.com. And we are currently having a program, not yet started. So it's a career readiness program. The link is in the chat room. You can register if you are interested. It's a career readiness program. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you too for your nice hosting.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, we still have some people here.